Hello and welcome back. This is section 3, Roles and Authorization. In the last section, we touched on routing and layout. In this section, we're going to touch on Meteor Authentication, utilizing the Accounts package. Then we're going to touch on the user profile and avatars, and then we'll get into some roles and authorization methods. In this video, Authentication, we're going to build the necessary templates for sign in, sign out, and register. And we'll handle each of the authentication methods provided by Meteor. Let's start with the registration form. If we go into our code and go into the same folder as the register HTML, we're going to create a registered JavaScript file. And in this file, we're going to put template.register.events. This is where we're going to handle any events on the form. Notice there's a form tag here as well as an email ID on one of the fields. So we're going to use that by saying submit form function, basically saying that we're handling the submit of that form. The first thing we'll do is prevent the default action, and then we're going to create a variable for the email by pulling it out of the event target, and we'll create another one, so we'll just duplicate that for the password. And here we're just going to change this event target password, and in each one of these we get the value of that field. So then we can say accounts. Now before we can use any methods in the accounts, we actually have to make sure that the package exists. So let's go into our packages, and we're going to add accounts-password. There's several to choose from, but accounts password is the easiest to get started with. So we'll go back here and say now that we want to accounts.createUser. And this takes both the email and the password fields. So we're just going to pass the email and the password, and this should create the user as soon as they click the submit button. We're going to do a similar thing for the sign-in form. So let's go into the sign-in folder, and we'll create another JavaScript called signin.js. And in this one, we're going to create a template.signin events handler. And within that, we're going to say that submit on the form. Just as we did in the last one, we're going to provide the event inside of a function, and we'll say that we want to prevent the default action, and then we're going to pull the two fields out of the form, and let's just go check that they're there. So we see there is a form tag, so we know that's going to work, and we see that there's an email and a password field. So we'll go ahead and set these up, and we'll say let's pull the email into a variable called email, and we're just going to do the event.target.email.value, and then we'll do the same thing for password, event.target.password.value. Now we're going to use a function from Meteor called login with password, and we'll pass in the email and the password. This will automatically create a session for the user who logged in, providing that that user exists. So now we're going to make sure that there is a route for signing out. Obviously, you can't sign in and out if you can't, ever log yourself out. So the way we're going to do that is in this route, we're going to put in the action meteor.logout, and then in the callback for this, we're going to say, just go ahead and go to sign in. So if there's no error on logout, then use the flow router to tell the user to go to /sign-in. That'll send them back to the sign-in page, indicating that they're no longer logged in. We can also put the flow router.go to the / if they do log in successfully. And now that we've created all the handlers for these different functions, let's go into the header where our navigation bar is, and we're going to place in there some buttons for sign in, registration, and even sign out. And we'll start by creating a div with a class of collapse and a class of navbar-collapse and an ID of main nav. And then within that div, we want to check whether the user is logged in or not. So we're going to put the handlebars if statement here, which says if current user, and that's a variable within Meteor. So if you're logged in, it will show a current user, otherwise it will not. And we can put an else in here as well. So we have an if current user, an else, and then we close the if loop. Now, basically, if we go inside of this if statement, we can put what we would like to show if they are logged in. And then in the else statement, we can put what we want to show if they're not logged in. So in this case, we're going to put a div with a class of navbar right and plain, and then we're going to copy that down into the else statement so that both of them kind of sit in the same sort of area. They just look a little bit different. Now here we're going to put a button, and the button class on this, in the event that they are a current user, we're going to put a little red button that says sign out, because that means they are signed in and the only thing they may want to do is sign out. So we'll put an href for sign out, and we're going to put the label sign out, and notice that we put btn-danger. That will make this button red. Now the other thing we can do is put an icon on here, which is a lock icon, and this lets us know that there's a little security thing here going on. So next we're going to go into when they are not logged in, which is the case where they may want to register or log in, and we're going to create another A element with a class of button and then btn-default and then navbar-button. That will make sure that it doesn't slide out of the navbar at the top. So then we'll say here that we want to sign in. We'll duplicate that. Spelled that wrong, so let's change sign in. And then here we're going to say register. And in both cases, we're just going to have the label indicate what it does. And then here we're going to say instead of button default, we'll give it a different color like primary. So that would make that one blue and the other one gray or something like that. So let's go take a look at this. We see our sign in, and that takes us to our sign in form. When we're signed in, we see a sign out. That's perfect. So congratulations, you've created all of the pieces necessary to do user authentication. Now, we could wrap a couple of things up, like let's take out the insecure package from our packages, and we'll add the A-landing roles. This is in preparation for one of our next sections coming up. And we'll add one additional package, which is the Font Awesome package. That's from Fort Awesome, and we're just going to put Fort Awesome : Font Awesome. That's going to give us those nice little icons. So if we go look in the interface, you'll see on my sign out button, I have that little padlock. In this video, we've built our authentication methods and templates. Let's move on to our next video, which is user profile and avatars.